The main screen in the Coalition war room flickered with red warning signals. 17 alien species watched in silence as another defense line fell to the Varaxian forces. Lisa Harmon stood in the back of the room, the only human present among the alien commanders. She clenched her fists as she watched the Varaxian ships tear through the Coalition fleet like paper. "We must retreat to Sector 7, said Admiral Zoll, his blue skin pulsing with stress patterns. "The outer colonies cannot be saved." Lisa stepped forward. "Admiral, New Haven is in that sector. 40,000 human colonists live there." Admiral Zoll barely glanced at her. "Unfortunate, but necessary losses. The Coalition cannot waste resources on a single colony when the survival of all our species is at stake." Lisa wanted to argue, but she knew it would be useless. In the 20 years since humans had joined the Galactic Coalition, they had always been treated as the newcomers, the primitive species barely worthy of attention. Coalition ships had better weapons, faster engines, and stronger shields than anything Earth could build. But what humans lacked in technology, they made up for in determination. "I need to inform Earth about this decision," Lisa said, trying to keep her voice steady. "Do so," Admiral Zoll replied. "And remind your government that all Coalition members are required to contribute to the Central Defense Force. We need your ships to join the retreat to the Galactic Core." Lisa nodded stiffly and left the war room. As soon as she was alone, she slammed her fist against the wall. The Coalition was giving up without a fight, and they expected Earth to abandon its people too. Captain Jack Miller stood on the bridge of the EDF Defender, Earth's newest battlecruiser. It wasn't much compared to Coalition vessels, but it was the best humanity had built so far. His crew worked quietly around him, each person aware of the grim news they had just received. "Sir," his communications officer said, "we're receiving a direct transmission from Washington." The main screen changed to show President Olivia Warren. Her face was serious, her eyes determined. "Captain Miller, I've just finished an emergency meeting with Coalition Command. They've ordered all member species to retreat and abandon the outer sectors, including New Haven." Jack felt his stomach tighten. "Madam President, my sister and her family are on New Haven." "I know, Captain. My son is there too." The President's voice didn't waver. "The Coalition believes the Varaxians are too powerful to fight. But we disagree. Humanity doesn't abandon its own." Jack straightened his back. "What are my orders, Madam President?" "Operation Thunderbolt is now active. You will take the Defender and coordinate with all available Earth ships. Your mission is to reach New Haven and evacuate our people before the Varaxians arrive." "The Coalition won't approve," Jack said. "The Coalition doesn't need to approve. This is a human matter." President Warren's expression hardened. "Captain Miller, I won't pretend this isn't dangerous. Coalition analysts give your mission less than 5% chance of success. But if anyone can do this, it's you. We won't let you down, Madam President." After the transmission ended, Jack turned to his executive officer. "Sam, contact all Earth ships in this sector. Tell them to rendezvous at these coordinates, and get me the captains of every commercial vessel within range. Mining ships, colony transports, anything that can fly." "Sir, what are we doing?" Jack's eyes were fixed on the star map, where New Haven's location blinked steadily. "We're going to war." Dr. Alan Bennett wasn't a military man. As New Haven's chief scientist, his concerns had always been about crop yields and water purification. But now, as he looked at the emergency broadcast from Earth, he realized he would need to become something else. "How much time do we have?" asked Sheriff Kate Rodriguez, who stood beside him in the colony's command center. 3 days, maybe 4 before the Varaxians arrive," Alan replied. "The Coalition defense fleet just jumped out of the system. They left us here." Kate's face showed no fear, only determination. "Then we need to get people to the mines. The deep tunnel should provide some protection." Alan nodded. "I'll organize the medical supplies and food. We need to prepare for a long wait." "You think Earth will really send ships?" Kate asked quietly. "I know they will," Alan said. "Whether they'll get here in time is another question." In Earth orbit, Jack Miller watched as a strange fleet took shape. The 5 military cruisers Earth could spare looked out of place among the civilian vessels. Mining ships with industrial cutting lasers, colony transports with their massive shields, research vessels equipped with experimental technology the Coalition had always dismissed as crude. "Final ship report, sir," Commander Samantha Diaz said, handing him a tablet. "We have 47 vessels total. It's not much against Varaxian warships." Jack reviewed the list. "It's all we have, Sam. We'll make it work." On the main viewer, Earth grew smaller as the fleet prepared to jump. Jack thought about the Coalition admirals, safely retreating to the galactic core while entire worlds were left to die. Humanity had joined the stars hoping to find wisdom and unity. Instead, they found that even advanced species could be cowards. "Captain, all ships report ready," Sam said. Jack took a deep breath. "Send this message to all ships. This is Captain Jack Miller. The Coalition has abandoned New Haven and ordered us to retreat. But Earth has given us different orders. 40,000 of our people are waiting for us, and we will not abandon them. Each of you volunteered for this mission knowing the odds. What we lack in technology, we will make up for in courage and ingenuity. The Varaxians have never faced humans in battle. They think we're primitive. Today, we'll show them that humanity's greatest strength isn't in our ships or weapons, but in our refusal to give up. All ships prepare for jump." The strange fleet of Earth vessels disappeared into the darkness of space, heading toward a battle few expected them to survive. In the Coalition war room, alien admirals noted their departure with a mixture of pity and confusion. They had calculated the odds. They knew what would happen when primitive human ships faced the Varaxian war machine. What they couldn't calculate was the power of human determination. What they didn't understand was that humanity's history had been forged in desperate battles and impossible odds. While the Coalition retreated, humanity stormed forward, and the galaxy was about to change forever. The journey to New Haven took 4 days. Captain Jack Miller used this time to prepare his unusual fleet for battle. The military ships ran drills while the civilian vessels practiced new formations that no Coalition commander would have approved. "They think we're crazy," Samantha Diaz said as she watched the mining ships practice their attack runs. "The Coalition would never put civilian ships in a battle line." Jack nodded. "That's our advantage. The Varaxians have only fought against Coalition tactics. They won't expect what we're about to do." In the mess hall of the Defender, Jack gathered the captains of all 47 ships. Some wore military uniforms, but most were in civilian clothes. Miners, colony ship pilots, even a few research scientists. "We'll reach New Haven tomorrow," Jack said. "Our scouts report 4 Varaxian ships already in the system, 1 harvester, and 3 warships." A murmur went through the room. Everyone knew that even 1 Varaxian warship could destroy several Coalition military vessels. "This is suicide," said one of the mining captains. "No," Jack replied firmly. "This is thinking differently. The Varaxians expect us to fight like the Coalition, to line up our ships and exchange fire until the strongest wins. But we're not going to do that." He activated a hologram showing the New Haven system. "We're going to use Protocol Hornets, Nest." The civilian captains looked confused, but the military officers smiled grimly. Hornets' Nest was a battle plan created specifically for situations where Earth forces were outnumbered and outgunned. Mining ships will use their industrial cutting lasers to slice through Varaxian hull plating, Jack explained. Colony ships will use their massive shields as battering rams. Military cruisers will target these specific weak points. He highlighted several areas on the Varaxian ship designs. "How do you know they're weak points?" asked a colony ship captain. "The Coalition has never been able to identify any." "Because the Coalition keeps looking for technological weaknesses," Jack said. "We looked for patterns. My analyst team studied every battle recording. The Varaxians protect their ships evenly except during certain maneuvers. We'll exploit those moments." The captains left with their orders. Some looked doubtful, others determined. Jack watched them go, hoping he wasn't leading them all to their deaths. On New Haven, the situation was growing desperate. Sheriff Kate Rodriguez organized the colonists into defensive groups, using farm equipment and mining tools as weapons. The first Varaxian ground forces had landed 3 days ago, strange crystalline creatures that moved with frightening speed. "They're pushing toward the main settlement," Kate told Dr. Alan Bennett as they huddled in the underground command center. "We've slowed them down with explosive traps, but they're learning quickly." Alan nodded grimly. "The good news is we've gotten almost everyone into the deep mines. The bad news is our food and water won't last more than 2 weeks." "Any word from Earth?" Kate asked. "Nothing direct," Alan replied. "But we picked up some chatter on coalition frequencies. They're saying a fleet left Earth 4 days ago, heading this way." Kate's eyes widened. "Earth really is coming for us?" "Looks that way," Alan said. "Now we just need to stay alive until they get here." An explosion rocked the ground above them. Dust fell from the ceiling of the command center. "That was closer than the last one," Kate said, checking her makeshift weapon, a mining laser attached to a rifle stock. "We need to move deeper." Alan gathered his research materials. "There's something strange about these Varaxians. The soil. Samples near their landing sites show unusual bacterial activity. I think our native bacteria might be affecting them somehow." "Can we use that?" Kate asked. "Maybe, if I had more time to study it." Another explosion, closer still. "Which I don't have right now." They hurried deeper into the mines, joining the colonists who waited in the darkness, hoping for rescue. The human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the New Haven system. Immediately, Jack ordered all ships to deploy, according to the Hornet's Nest protocol. The fleet split into smaller groups, each with a specific role. On the bridge of the Defender, Jack watched as the Varaxian ships detected their arrival. The alien vessels were beautiful in a strange way, crystalline structures that seemed to grow rather than be built, glowing with internal energy. "They're powering weapons," Samantha reported. "All ships in defensive formation." "No," Jack commanded. "Tell everyone to proceed as planned. No coalition tactics." The Varaxian warships moved with perfect coordination, expecting the humans to form a defensive line. Instead, the Earth fleet scattered in all directions. Mining ships dove toward the Harvester, their industrial cutting lasers slicing into its crystalline surface. Colony ships activated their massive shields and rammed directly into Varaxian weapon ports. "This is insane," said Jack's tactical officer as they watched a civilian research vessel fly dangerously close to a Varaxian warship, deploying a cloud of sensor-jamming particles. "This is human," Jack replied. "Group 3, begin your attack. Run." The Defender and 2 other military cruisers swooped toward the largest Varaxian ship. The alien vessel fired its main weapons, but the humans didn't evade as expected. Instead, they rolled their ships using their strongest armor to absorb the hits while continuing their approach. "Damage on decks 4 through 7, Samantha reported calmly. "Shields at 40%. "Maintain course," Jack ordered. "Target their propulsion nodes on my mark." The battle unfolded in chaos, exactly as Jack had planned. The Varaxians had never faced an enemy that fought like this, with civilian and military ships working together in unpredictable patterns. On the engineering deck of the colony ship Freedom, Frank Delgado worked frantically to finish his special project. A former terraforming engineer, Frank had spent the journey reprogramming New Haven's atmospheric satellites. "Captain, I'm ready to activate the EM Pulse network," he radioed to Jack. "Do it," Jack ordered. Frank sent the signal. Across New Haven's orbit, 32 terraforming satellites simultaneously released powerful electromagnetic pulses. The effect on the crystalline Varaxian ships was immediate. Their formations faltered as their communication systems were disrupted. "It's working," Samantha exclaimed. "Their ships are losing coordination." Jack smiled grimly. "All military vessels target weak points now. Mining ships continue cutting operations." The human fleet pressed their advantage. A Varaxian warship split apart as the combined cutting lasers from 5 mining vessels sliced through its central core. Another spun out of control after 3 colony ships rammed its propulsion systems simultaneously. "Captain, we've destroyed 2 enemy ships," Samantha reported. "The Harvester is crippled, but the last warship is calling for reinforcements." Jack nodded. "Begin landing operations immediately. We need to evacuate as many colonists as possible before those reinforcements arrive." The first transport ships descended toward New Haven's surface, searching for the colonists' emergency beacons. In orbit, the battered human fleet regrouped, preparing to protect the evacuation for as long as possible. For the first time in the history of the Varaxian expansion, the crystalline empire had lost a battle, and humanity had just announced its presence to the galaxy. Lisa Harmon stood in the back of the Coalition war room, watching the faces of the alien admirals as they viewed the battle footage from New Haven. She had worked hard to get this recording, secretly sending it to every member of the Coalition leadership. Now she watched with satisfaction as their expressions showed shock, disbelief, and in some cases, a new spark of hope. "This cannot be real," Admiral Zoll said, his skin flushing a deep purple. "Primitive human ships could not defeat Varaxian warships." "The footage is authentic," said a Kalari representative, her feathered crest rising with excitement. "Our analysts have confirmed it. The humans used mining vessels and colony ships as weapons. They found weak points in Varaxian defenses that we missed." Lisa stepped forward. "We didn't have better technology. We just had a different way of thinking. The Varaxians expected coalition tactics. They weren't prepared for human ingenuity." The room buzzed with conversation as coalition species debated what this meant. Lisa noticed several military officers from the Kalari and Mazorian species huddled together, watching the battle footage again with intense interest. "Commander Harmon," one of them called to her, "would your people be willing to share these battle plans with other coalition forces?" Before Lisa could answer, Admiral Zoll cut in. "This changes nothing. One small victory does not win a war. The strategic retreat to the Galactic core will continue as planned." But Lisa could see that something important had changed. For the first time since the war began, some members of the coalition were questioning their leadership's decisions. The seed of resistance had been planted. On New Haven's surface, Kate Rodriguez directed the evacuation from the entrance to the mine complex. The human landing ships had arrived just in time. Varaxian ground forces were less than a day away from breaking through their final defenses. "Move in groups of 50, Kate shouted over the noise of the crowd. "Children and medical cases first. Stay calm and keep moving." Beside her, Alan Bennett was discussing his findings with a science officer from the Defender. "The bacteria in our soil affects their crystalline structure," he explained. "It's not immediately lethal to them, but it weakens their outer shells. We might be able to develop this into a weapon." The ground shook as a Varaxian assault unit fired on a distant defensive position. The evacuation needed to speed up. "How many ships do we have?" Kate asked a nearby officer. 12 transports on the ground now, 5 more coming down. But we have a problem." The officer pointed to the sky. Long-range sensors detected Varaxian reinforcements entering the system. "Captain Miller says we have less than 3 hours before they reach orbit." Kate looked at the line of colonists still waiting to board. There were thousands more deeper in the mines. "We won't all make it out in time." Alan put a hand on her shoulder. "We will. I have an idea." In orbit, Jack Miller faced a terrible choice. The evacuation was barely halfway complete when 3 more Varaxian warships appeared at the edge of the system. Larger than the ones they had defeated earlier, these ships moved with purpose toward New Haven. "How long until they're in weapons range?" Jack asked. 40 minutes, Samantha replied. "Our fleet is in no condition for another battle, Captain. Most ships are at less than 60% combat capacity." Jack studied the tactical display. The damaged human fleet was scattered around New Haven, protecting the evacuation transports. If they stayed to fight, they would likely all be destroyed. "Captain," the communications officer called out. "I'm receiving a message from Commander Harmon on Earth. Priority 1. Lisa's face appeared on the screen. She looked tired but excited. "Jack, you need to hold that position a little longer. Something's happening here. The Kalari and Mazorian. Commanders are mobilizing ships to help you. They were inspired by your victory." Jack shook his head. "Lisa, we don't have time to wait for them. Varaxian reinforcements will be here in less than an hour." "You just need to delay them," Lisa insisted. "The coalition is fracturing. Some species are beginning to resist the retreat order. Your stand at New Haven changed everything." Jack turned to Samantha. How many military ships do we have that can still fight? 3 cruisers, including the Defender, she replied. The others are too damaged. Jack made his decision. Continue the evacuation. I'll take the 3 cruisers and try to delay the Varaxian reinforcements. That's a suicide mission, Samantha said quietly. Jack nodded. Maybe. But it might give our people enough time to escape. He turned to the communications officer. Tell Frank Delgado to meet me in Shuttle Bay 2. I need his help with something crazy. On the Coalition capital world, the news of New Haven spread like wildfire. Despite the official censorship, recordings of the human victory were being shared among all species. Commander Lisa Harmon found herself surrounded by alien officers asking questions about human battle tactics. Your people used mining lasers against warships, a Mazorian officer said in amazement. No one has ever thought to do this. Humans have always had to make do with less, Lisa explained. It taught us to be creative. A commotion at the far end of the room caught their attention. A group of Kalari and Mazorian ship captains were arguing with their superiors. We will not abandon those who fight, declared a Kalari captain. The humans have shown us another way. Lisa watched in astonishment as 7 coalition ships broke from their assigned positions and jumped toward New Haven. It was a small number compared to the massive coalition fleet, but it was a start. The first crack in the wall of fear that had paralyzed the galaxy. Jack Miller's 3 damaged cruisers approached New Haven's moon, using it for cover as they prepared to face the Varaxian reinforcements. On the bridge of the Defender, Frank Delgado was wiring an experimental device into the ship's systems. This might work, Frank said, or it might blow us all up. The Coalition would never approve this kind of modification. Good thing we're not asking for permission, Jack replied. The Varaxian ships entered weapons range, their crystalline structures glowing with energy as they prepared to fire. Jack gave the order to deploy their last desperate plan. The 3 human cruisers emerged from behind the moon, but instead of firing weapons, they activated Frank's device, a modified terraforming field generator that created a massive gravitational distortion. The effect on the crystalline Varaxian ships was immediate. Their structures began to vibrate and crack under the unexpected stress. It's working, Frank shouted. Their hulls can't handle the resonance frequency. The human ships pressed forward, taking heavy damage, but causing 1 Varaxian warship to shatter completely. The other 2 adjusted their shields, adapting to the human weapon. We've lost the Roosevelt, Samantha reported grimly. The Washington is critically damaged. Jack knew they couldn't win, but they had bought precious minutes for the evacuation. Below. Continue attack pattern. We need to hold them just a little longer. Just as the Defender's shields failed, new ships appeared in the system. Kalari cruisers and Mazorian battle platforms. 7 coalition vessels that had disobeyed orders to join the human stand. This is Captain Elar of the Kalari Defense Force, came a transmission. We saw what you did at New Haven. We are here to help. The fresh coalition ships engaged the remaining Varaxian warships using modified versions of the human tactics they had seen in the battle recordings. For the first time in the war, Varaxian forces retreated from a system they had targeted. As Jack watched the enemy ships flee, he realized something historic had happened. For the first time, the Varaxians had been defeated not once, but twice, and more importantly, humans were no longer fighting alone. 1 month after the Battle of New Haven, the Coalition High Command was in chaos. More and more ships from various species were breaking away from the retreat order. Lisa Harmon worked tirelessly, connecting these rebel captains with human military advisors. A new strategy was forming, one that went against centuries of coalition military doctrine. The old approach isn't working, Lisa explained to a room full of alien officers. The Varaxians expect us to gather our forces in one place. Instead, we need to spread out and create multiple defense clusters that can support each other. A Mazorian commander raised a limb in objection. Our historical analysis shows that concentrated forces are stronger. Against conventional enemies, yes, Lisa agreed. But the Varaxians aren't conventional. They target large concentrations of ships. We need to be unpredictable. Across the table, a Kalari captain named Elar nodded. After helping Jack Miller at New Haven, she had become one of Lisa's strongest allies. The humans call it guerrilla warfare, Elar explained to her fellow officers. It's how smaller forces defeat larger ones. Slowly, the coalition officers began to understand. They had been fighting this war according to rules that only benefited the enemy. Captain Jack Miller stood on the bridge of a new ship, the EDF Phoenix. After the Battle of New Haven, his damaged defender had been beyond repair. Now he commanded a unique vessel, built with human designs but incorporating coalition technology. Around him, the crew was a mix of humans and aliens from 7 different species. "All ships report ready, Captain," Samantha Diaz said. She had stayed as his executive officer, turning down promotions to remain with Miller's battle group. Jack nodded. "Set course for the Arcturus system. It's time we took the fight to the Varaxians." In the month since New Haven, everything had changed. Miller's mixed fleet had grown to include 35 ships from 12 different species. While the main coalition forces continued their retreat to the Galactic core, this splinter group was trying something new, taking the fight directly to Varaxian territory. "Captain," Samantha said quietly, "Coalition Command is hailing us. Admiral Zoll demands we return to formation." Jack smiled. "Tell him we're experiencing communication difficulties." On the engineering deck, Frank Delgado worked alongside alien technicians, integrating his unconventional ideas with their advanced technology. The results were weapons that no one in the galaxy had seen before. Hybrid designs that combined human creativity with coalition science. "The resonance disruptors are installed on all ships," Frank reported to Jack. "And we've modified the mining lasers like you asked. They're now 20 times more powerful." Jack nodded in approval. "The Varaxians won't expect any of this." On Earth, President Olivia Warren addressed an emergency session of the Coalition Assembly. This was unprecedented, a human leader speaking to the highest governing body in the galaxy. Many members had refused to attend, but those who came listened with growing interest. "For centuries, the Coalition has valued technological advancement above all else," Warren said. "You judged species by the power of their ships and the strength of their weapons. But technology alone will not win this war." She activated a hologram, showing the recent battles where human-led forces had defeated Varaxian ships. "Humanity doesn't have the most advanced technology, but we have something the Varaxians don't understand: diversity of thought. Each human approaches problems differently. We argue, we disagree, we find multiple solutions to the same problem. This unpredictability is our greatest weapon." Warren proposed a radical new strategy. Instead of retreating to the Galactic core, the Coalition should establish multiple smaller defensive clusters that could support each other, using hit-and-run tactics. "No more running," she concluded. "No more abandoning worlds. We fight together or we die alone." The assembly erupted in debate. Some species immediately rejected the human plan, but others, led by the Kalari and Mazorians, voiced their support. The Coalition was dividing, but perhaps that division was exactly what was needed. Dr. Alan Bennett led a research team on the human colony world of Proxima Base. After escaping New Haven, he had focused all his efforts on understanding Varaxian biology. The samples he had collected proved invaluable. "Their crystalline structure has specific resonance frequencies," Alan explained to a group of scientists from several species. "That's why Frank's gravity weapon worked so well, and they're vulnerable to certain bacteria found in Earth-like soil." A Kalari scientist raised her hand. "We've never considered biological weapons against the Varaxians. Our studies focused on breaking through their shields." "That's the problem," Alan said. "Everyone tried to beat them with better technology. We need to look for unexpected weaknesses." In another part of the base, Sheriff Kate Rodriguez trained mixed-species commando units in guerrilla warfare techniques. The alien soldiers were skeptical at first, but they quickly saw the value in her unorthodox tactics. "Don't stand and fight them head-on," Kate instructed. "Hit them where they're weak, then disappear before they can respond. Use the environment against them." The aliens learned quickly. Many of them had lost homeworlds to the Varaxians and were eager for a way to fight back effectively. The Varaxian Empire had never faced serious resistance before. Their expansion had been unstoppable for centuries, consuming one civilization after another. Now, for the first time, they encountered an enemy that fought in unpredictable ways. Reports reached the Varaxian leadership of small, fast-moving ships, appearing from nowhere, striking critical targets and vanishing before they could be caught. Mining outposts were being destroyed, supply lines were disrupted, and the strange mixed fleets used weapons that somehow targeted the crystalline weaknesses of Varaxian technology. In response, the Varaxian Empire committed massive resources to crush the human-led coalition forces. They launched a major offensive against the Arcturus system, where humanity had established its largest space station. Captain Jack Miller received the warning as his fleet patrolled the edge of the system. Varaxian forces incoming, at least 30 warships. Samantha looked concerned. "That's twice our size, Captain," Jack nodded grimly. "They're angry. We've been hurting them where they've never been hurt before." He opened a channel to all ships in his fleet. "All vessels, this is Captain Miller. The enemy is coming in force. They think their superior numbers will overwhelm us. But they're thinking like the old coalition, that the biggest fleet always wins." He sent battle plans to each ship. "We're going to use protocol scattered storm, small groups, hit-and-run attacks, focus on their communication nodes. No ship engages for more than 90 seconds before breaking off. This isn't about destroying their fleet, it's about making them fear us." The Battle of Arcturus Station would become legendary. The smaller human-led fleet refused to engage in traditional combat. Instead, they struck from multiple directions, disappearing into the dense asteroid fields when pursued, then emerging to attack again from unexpected angles. Frank's resonance weapons shattered Varaxian crystal hulls. Kate's commando teams boarded damaged enemy ships and planted explosives at critical junctions. Alan's biological agents were deployed against Varaxian landing parties attempting to board the station. After 18 hours of chaotic fighting, the Varaxian fleet withdrew, having lost 11 ships while destroying only 4 of the coalition vessels. It wasn't a decisive victory, but it sent a powerful message throughout the galaxy. For the first time since the war began, coalition species began to believe that victory might be possible, and it had all started with one human decision: to refuse to abandon their people when all hope seemed lost. 6 months after the Battle of Arcturus Station, the war had changed completely. The Varaxian advance had not only stopped, but was being pushed back in multiple sectors. What began as a small group of rebel ships had grown into a powerful fighting force, with vessels from 14 different coalition species now serving under human tactical command. Lisa Harmon stood in the coalition war room, but this time she wasn't in the back. She stood at the central table, the first human ever appointed to the coalition high command. Around her, alien admirals listened as she outlined the next phase of operations. "The Varaxians have pulled back to defend their core systems," Lisa explained. "For the first time, we have an opportunity to strike at their leadership structure." Admiral Zoll, once her strongest opponent, now nodded in agreement. "The human strategies have proven effective. Our latest intelligence suggests the Varaxian Empire is experiencing internal conflicts. They've never faced defeat before, they don't know how to handle it." Lisa smiled. It had been a long journey from being ignored to being respected. Then it's time for the final push. On Earth, President Olivia Warren hosted representatives from all coalition species. They gathered in a grand hall to sign the new Articles of Alliance, replacing the old coalition charter with one that valued the unique contributions of each member species. "This document recognizes that true strength comes from diversity," Warren said. "Not just in technology, but in thinking, in culture, in approaches to problems. The Varaxians are powerful because they are uniform and predictable. We are stronger because we are different and adaptable." The alien representatives signed one by one. Many had lost homeworlds to the Varaxian advance. Now they had hope of reclaiming them. "This alliance would not exist without humanity's courage," said the Mazorian ambassador. "When our oldest and most advanced species counseled retreat, you showed us another way." Warren accepted the praise with grace. But her thoughts were with the thousands of humans and aliens currently preparing for the most dangerous mission yet, a direct assault on the Varaxian command world. Captain Jack Miller stood on the bridge of the Phoenix, leading the largest mixed-species battle group ever assembled. 53 ships from 14 different species, each modified with hybrid technology that combined the best of human creativity and alien science. "All ships report ready, Captain," Samantha Diaz said. After years of working together, they could communicate with just a glance. Jack nodded. "Begin Operation Thunderstrike." The massive fleet jumped into faster-than-light travel, heading deep into Varaxian territory. This mission was different from their previous hit-and-run attacks. This time, they were going after the heart of the Varaxian Empire. In the science lab aboard the Phoenix, Dr. Alan Bennett made final adjustments to his latest weapon, a biological agent specifically designed to disrupt the crystalline structure of Varaxian technology without harming other life forms. "Will it work?" asked a Kalari scientist working with him. Alan shrugged. "In the lab, yes. In the real world? We'll find out soon enough." In the hangar bay, Sheriff Kate Rodriguez, now Commander Rodriguez, briefed her mixed-species commando teams. After the evacuation of New Haven, Kate had joined the military, bringing her practical combat experience to the Alliance forces. "Once we're on the ground, we'll have 3 objectives," Kate explained. "Disable their central communication hub, deploy Dr. Bennett's biological agent, and locate their leadership council." The alien soldiers listened intently. Many had trained under Kate for months, learning human tactics that no Varaxian would expect. In engineering, Frank Delgado supervised final checks on the new weapons systems. What had started as desperate modifications to mining equipment had evolved into sophisticated technology that specifically targeted Varaxian weaknesses. "All systems green," Frank reported. "The resonance disruptors are at full power." Jack acknowledged the report, then addressed the entire fleet. 6 months ago, most of the galaxy believed this war was lost. The Coalition was retreating, abandoning worlds and people to the Varaxians. But humanity made a different choice. We refused to run. We refused to abandon our own. And in doing so, we discovered that the Varaxians weren't invincible after all. He paused, looking at the mixed crew on his bridge, humans working alongside aliens from across the galaxy. "Today, we take the fight to the enemy's doorstep, not just for Earth, not just for New Haven, but for every world that has suffered under Varaxian aggression. Let's show them what happens when the galaxy stands united." The fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Varaxian home system. Immediately, they detected enemy ships moving to intercept them, a massive defensive force that outnumbered them 3-1. "They were expecting us," Samantha said grimly. Jack nodded. "But they're still thinking like Varaxians. They've arranged their ships in a perfect defensive formation, exactly where our long-range scans would detect them." He smiled. "And that's their mistake." The human-led fleet split into smaller groups, each executing different attack patterns that seemed chaotic but were carefully coordinated. Some charged forward, drawing Varaxian attention, while others slipped past their lines using stealth technology developed by the Kalari. Frank's resonance weapons shattered Varaxian crystal hulls. Kate's commando teams deployed to the surface, in stealth craft, targeting key installations. Alan's biological agents were released into the atmosphere of the Varaxian command world, causing their buildings and vehicles to begin breaking down at the molecular level. The battle raged for hours. Ships were lost on both sides. But the human strategies, now embraced and enhanced by 14 coalition species, proved superior to the rigid Varaxian tactics. On the surface, Kate's team fought their way to the central communication hub. "We're in position," she reported to Jack. "Planting the disruptors now." Alan monitored the spread of his biological agent from orbit. "It's working better than expected. Their entire infrastructure is destabilizing." Frank coordinated the fleet's engineering teams, adapting their weapons in real time as the Varaxians tried to counter them. "They can't keep up with our changes," he reported excitedly. "They modify their shields for one frequency and we switched to another. Finally, after a day of intense fighting, the Varaxian defense fleet broke apart. Their rigid command structure had collapsed when Kate's team destroyed their communication hub. Without central coordination, the crystalline ships fell into disarray. Jack ordered the final assault on the Varaxian leadership complex. All ships converge on these coordinates. Let's finish this. When the dust settled, the impossible had happened. The Varaxian Empire, which had threatened the entire galaxy, had been defeated by a coalition led by what they had considered a primitive species. In the aftermath, as coalition forces began the long process of liberating occupied worlds, the alien species acknowledged how close they had come to extinction. Before humanity showed them another way, Lisa Harmon stood at a viewpoint on the coalition's new headquarters, watching ships from dozens of species working together to rebuild what had been destroyed. Beside her, Jack Miller looked out at the stars. "We almost gave up," Lisa said quietly. The entire coalition was ready to retreat to the galactic core and wait for the end. Jack nodded. Sometimes all it takes is one voice saying no when everyone else says impossible. In the distance, a new class of ships prepared for their maiden voyage, exploration vessels designed to venture beyond known space. They carried crews from all coalition species, bound together by a shared purpose and the lessons learned in their darkest hour. When all hope was lost, humanity had stormed the battlefield. And in doing so, they had changed the galaxy forever.